Hey, hello, hello.
Hello, hello. How are you?
I'm good. You're at a different location.
No, I redid my office, so I have a new view.
Oh, it's so pretty.
Very fancy.
Yes, I
Thank
love
you.
it.
Thank
I
you.
love it. I love
It's
it.
not set up, so if you saw the behind the scenes, you'd be like, "What is happening in her office?" It's stuff everywhere. But here we are. Sorry, y'all. Had some tech issues this morning. Could not be heard on my other computer. So good to see everybody. Chris, so excited to have you. Leslie, so excited to have you today. How are you?
I'm well. How are you guys?
We're good. We're good. We're
Good.
excited to have you because obviously I knew you primarily for a while as a person with lived experience, and then you did what Liz and I did and decided that we were gonna go back to skill and
Yep.
help other people. So it's exciting to see you on both fronts.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well,
Sorry, y'all. My internet is funky, so I may have to restart and let you guys take it. But Chris, do you want to start with intros?
yeah, absolutely. So, welcome everyone. If you are here today with us, it is the first, third, or fourth Wednesday of the month. This is the third Wednesday of the month. So, every first, third, and Wednesday of the month at 9 o'clock on my coast or on the IOCDF's coast, the East Coast at noon, Liz and I both co-lead these live streams. Either it's a Ask the Experts, which we're doing today. So we're going to try to answer as many questions as you can. Sometimes we bring on special guests who I'll announce in a second. Or we have a lunch and learn where we bring on a couple experts on a topic and really deep dive in that. But we're just so happy to have you. Liz and I are always so thankful that you come back every Wednesday, really support the stream and support us. So super excited that you're here. Although this is a live stream and we're aiming to bring you educational content, community, a safe space, and just really resources from the IOCDF and other educational points, we cannot be a crisis hotline. So if you're really, really struggling right now and having a hard time, remember, either dial 911, go to your local emergency room. We now have the 988 hotline, or you can go to 988lifeline.org and really seek help. We're here more so to give you resources along your journey in recovery, but a crisis, please reach out to your clinician if you have one or one of those other resources. And then just a friendly reminder, this is being broadcast live on multiple of the IOCDF's social media platforms. First and foremost, make sure to like and subscribe. So if you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe to the IOCDF's YouTube. If you're watching on Facebook, make sure that you are following the Facebook page. If you're watching it on X or Twitter, make sure that you follow as well. We also have Twitch, we have LinkedIn. So we're just excited at however you decide to join us today. Liz is going to be right back, but we have a special guest today. So I'm super excited to introduce our special guest. So as I was saying earlier, I've known Leslie for a while. Leslie is somebody who has OCD, but decided to be crazy like Liz and go back to school and support others. So Leslie stepped away. Here's her bio, but Leslie stepped away from a long and successful corporate career. She went back to school to obtain her master's degree in clinical social work to help children with anxiety and related disorders. It's important for Leslie to help these kids because she was one of them herself. She was diagnosed with metaphobic OCD at the age of 8, but has been in remission rather for over 15 years. Leslie has volunteered and participated in various IOCDF programs for over 12 years. Outside of the IOCDF, she is featured in the Deconstructing Stigma campaign produced by McLean Hospital and an upcoming Australian documentary film on OCD.
Austrian.
Oh, Austrian. You know what? I'm so glad you said that because literally after I said your intro, I was going to be like, good eye, mate. That was really stupid because I was totally wrong country. Austrian documentary film on OCD. Leslie credits the amazing IOCDF staff for encouraging and supporting her on her journey to become a clinical social worker. The staff is incredible at the IOCDF. Shout out to them. She is focused on starting her new career and helping struggling with the pain, frustration, and uncertainty that can accompany anxiety disorders. It is her mission to let them know there is hope and they are strong enough to come through to the other side. She is currently a social worker at Manhattan Psychiatric Center, a state hospital for the severely mental ill in New York City. She lives in Brooklyn, New York, and in her spare time, loves to go out to dinner with friends, see live music, and snuggle with her cats. So you're out there in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm. But not right now. But yes, I live in Brooklyn.
Okay, cool. Well, welcome. We're excited to have you on.
Thanks, guys. I'm super excited, a little confused as to why I'm here. I guess it's not really sunken in yet that I'm an expert, but I feel like I'm going to be doing this a lot for the next hour, but, just get used to it.
Well, I think, one thing we can jump in right there in the discussion. I mean, you're an IOCDF advocate and a couple of IOCDF advocates. I think there's 4 or 5 of you all that are clinicians as well. But I've always thought that there's something about those of us. I'm not saying that clinicians who haven't gone through OC themselves are not able to do treatment. I think that there are plenty of people. I don't think a doctor needs to have had a heart attack to work on your heart, right? But I think that there's something to be said for people that have lived through this horrendous disorder and turn around and decide to help others and become a licensed therapist and really work with people. And so I know it's newer to you as the role. How long have you been a clinician? It's not super new.
It's not, well, I got my license, I think it's been 2 years now. So because I had decided, like you guys, to go back to school, but I think I'm a lot older than both of you, and I decided to go back at the age of 40. So, 6 years later, I've been licensed for 2 years now, and I've been at Manhattan Psychiatric Center practicing there for almost 3 years.
Yeah, so you're not super brand new. You didn't get licensed yesterday, so
yeah. No.
Plus, you have way cooler tattoos than me, so I have none. So you already win.
They're a really great jumping point, like start off point in conversations with patients. So I find them looking at me like, when they first see me, they're like, "Whoa!" And I'm like, "I know it's a lot. There's a lot going on. Don't worry."
I think clinicians with cool tattoos. We had Krista Reed on the stream recently, and I know she has tattoos.
Yes.
But it makes you so cool with like the teens and young adults. So you have to get a face tattoo or so, because I work with that age group. But well, let's maybe start there. What had you decide to go back to being a clinician? Like, what did you feel for you personally? Like, why was it a calling?
My entire life, I shouldn't say my entire life, but when I was old enough to realize what was wrong with me, I became really, really fascinated with not only OCD, but other mental illnesses and the tiny little things that could go wrong with your brain that could cause complete and utter chaos. Always interested me. Psychology always interested me, but I never thought I was smart enough to do it. So I went into corporate event planning instead. And the money was great. So I really liked that. It was a great job. I got to travel and everything. And then I figured when I started working with the IOCDF in like 2010, I was like, all right, so this can kind of like soothe my wanting to help people. I can just be an advocate and help with the IOCDF. And kind of years down the line, it wasn't enough. I was like, I want to do more. As mental health gets to be more mainstream and then the stigma is starting to go away, I was just like, I want to get involved now. Like I've been sick for a long time now. Since I was 8, I was diagnosed. So like it was important for me to finally do something that was going to, I hate saying help the world, but something for the greater good other than, making rich people richer. Like, it's just like, it was great and all, and I liked the money and I traveled a lot, but I was just like, you know what, I think I can do this. But it was also myself getting in the way of being like, I'm not smart enough. I'm never going to get into a grad school. I hate taking tests. I'm awful at it. My mom used to tell me that I'm more street smart than book smart. I finally, it finally just got to be like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to help people. I want to get more involved, and just volunteering wasn't enough.
Yeah. No, I feel you on that. I know when I was in my grad program, there are some people that are just like, I'm not book savvy, but I'm like, man, I don't know how your grad program was, but so many people in it themselves personally experienced some kind of strife, some kind of difficulty. I'll never forget my first class. They had us raise our hand in grad school, like raise your hand if you're here because you've gone through a diagnosable disorder or trauma or PTSD or
Oh,
crisis
wow.
themselves. And it was like 70%. And then the people that didn't raise their hand, they're like, how about you're here because of a family or loved one has gone through it? And I think another 20% raised their hand. And then there was 10% that were just like, I feel a calling. So, I know one thing that I love to see now is there's so many advocates. You're part of the IOCDF Advocate program, myself as well, Liz. There's such a passion and a hunger to help out and to give back. For you as an IOCDF advocate, what has sort of been your you started, like you said, volunteering with the foundation in 2010. It's been a minute, and now as an advocate, why is that so important for you, and what does that mean to you to hold that title?
First of all, I'm super interested in all the research that goes on too. So I like being kind of on the forefront and pretty involved in that. I unfortunately I don't work with children like I had planned. My career kind of took a left, so but that's okay. And with the IOCDF, I get to work with children, and because I always volunteer in the children's tracks at the annual conference, and that to me is so important for me to see every year how much better these kids get at just not really giving a crap about talking about it, being open about it. And then you also see like the same group of kids that show up at every annual conference every year, and it's like summer camp and they're excited to see each other. And, you get to see how they've been doing with their OCD or with their treatment. It's so important for me to just always be involved in that and just not on the sidelines.
Yeah.
I love now being involved in the process of vetting sessions that get submitted. I think that's amazing. And I love being part of those committees as well. Yeah, it like warms my heart. My job is extremely intense. It's extremely exhausting emotionally, and I don't have a lot of time outside of it. So like the times that I do get to do work with the IOCDF just like makes me very happy.
Yeah. No, I know, Liz, we've always talked about like why advocating is so important. And I think, Liz and I have witnessed like the advocacy program grow, and so many people
Oh my God.
are passionate, coming to the conference each year, speaking on live streams, posting things on social media, and doing local events. I mean, I think all of that work is so great. Tell us a little bit about, with OCD, people always kind of ask those of us that have gotten better and are now doing things in our lives that are successful. If you were to talk about the mindset for you, what was the mindset that finally had you shift and really say, okay, enough is enough. Like I need to get better.
It's so interesting to ask that question. And I also have a terrible memory, or maybe I blocked stuff out, I think purposefully. Like, I think that I finally had the right therapist at the time to actually go through ERP and actually tackle the compulsions, the obsessive thoughts, the rituals. That's got to be it, because beforehand it wasn't even a thought. I was doing talk therapy. I was on medication, but it wasn't a thought to actually get rid of it. And then I think when I found my old therapist, she's since long retired, and I trusted her enough, I was just like, all right, I can do this. Things had gotten really bad and very difficult. My quality of life was not great. I always like to say that my OCD was more of a moderate to severe case. I was never hospitalized. I never did intensive outpatient. It wasn't an option for me. It might have been a better fit for somebody else, but not for me. I had a job, I had a social life. But at that time, I was like, something has to give. I mean, like my marriage was crumbling at the time, and it was just my job. I was holding on by like a wing and a prayer. I had no idea. It just got too difficult, and I was physically and mentally and emotionally burnt out from it. And I just knew this therapist was gonna be the one to help me.
What I'd love for Liz to weigh into on, I was going to call on you, Liz, sorry. One of the things I just heard Leslie talk about is like right level of care. And, you know, you always say like, I'm on a soapbox, and I feel like I'm on that soapbox lately, because when people are saying like, you know, I didn't get better from treatment, and I'll ask them about their level, and they'll say, oh, I was like you, Leslie, like moderate, severe. And I'll say, okay, tell me about your treatment. And they're like, well, I've been in once a week therapy for 8 years. And I'm like, oh my God, like there has to be that therapist should have encouraged you to step up to a level of care. And obviously with Liz running one of the largest level of care, I mean, Liz, when you see people come in, is that a trend? Like seeing people who maybe haven't been as successful because they're just too severe for that once a week?
Yeah, 100%. And the thing I always tell people is that, you know, what we know from research and studies is that you really should see pretty good outcomes in as little as 12 to 16 weeks. So if you've been with a provider for 3 or 4 months and you are not seeing progress, you are not saying, okay, like I'm finally, like you should actually be feeling probably 2 months in, like I am finally with the right therapist. I'm doing the right work that's going to get me better. It doesn't necessarily mean you're totally better by that point, but if you're not feeling that, and if you are like 8 weeks in, especially 12, 16, and you're feeling stuck, you feel like you're not really seeing improvement, you're kind of just hanging on and making it to therapy every week, but that your life hasn't improved, you need to be questioning 2 things. Number one, are you with the right provider who is offering the right evidence-based treatment and has the appropriate specialty and background that you need? And number 2, are you in the right level of care? You know, and I hear it all the time. And you guys, I have to tell providers all the time, or I think to myself, why didn't you refer this patient earlier, right? Why did this patient stay in your level of care for years if they weren't improving versus getting to the right level of care? So it's critical, and it's really important, as Leslie's talking about too. Sometimes it may or may not be level of care, but it might be the type of treatment, right? Talk therapy doesn't work for OCD. It doesn't get us better. Sometimes it makes us feel good. Sometimes, you know, we feel supported in that session, but after a prolonged period of time, we recognize pretty quickly, this isn't changing my symptoms, right? This isn't improving my relationship with anxiety and OCD.
No, now I actually, this is kind of enlightening, because the few doctors I had before, or therapists I had before, never, from what I can remember, never suggested ERP. Now, that could be maybe this was a million years ago, so maybe it wasn't around, I don't know. Or maybe they just thought in their own heads that I wasn't ready for it. I don't know. But this therapist was like, hierarchy of rituals, let's tackle them one at a time. She actually came with me. She came to my home I will never forget the day. She came to my home, and it was like, all right, we're going to start from you waking up, getting ready, and I'm going to go with you up until you go on the train to go to work. So she was with me every step of the way. And it was the weirdest thing, because I found myself crossing off those rituals like it was nothing. I don't know why. I mean, probably because she was right there, but like, I don't know. And then and then it was up to me the next day to keep doing it. It was just like, it was ridiculous, because I was like, I had gone through decades and decades of thinking I can't live my life without doing this. Like, I can't. And then it was just taking her to believe in me that I was ready, maybe, and to be outside the door and be like, come on, put your pants on, let's go.
But
So
I'd love
I guess I'm not sure what was going through my old therapists' heads.
That's what I wanted to ask both of you, because like when I go to the doctor, like the traditional doctor, right? They're really good at saying like, hey, I got your labs back. This is what's going on. This isn't my area of expertise. Here's 3 referrals. Like doctors are so good in it in the medical side. Why do you think our field isn't there yet? Because I think a lot of therapists, I'm hoping it's coming from a good place and not financial, but a lot of therapists are like, I'm going to tackle OCD with you. And then they're using modalities that have no research behind it. Also, especially in a severe case, they shouldn't try their first client of OCD being a severe case, right? So why do you think our field still doesn't have that same kind of like, hey, I can't do this, let me refer out mindset that we see in the medical field?
I don't know. That is interesting, because I find medical doctors to have more of an ego than psychiatric doctors. I don't know if you guys agree, but That's what I think. Yeah, so I'm not sure. It's not good, for lack of a better big word, but yeah, it's not good that somebody would do that. It's unethical also.
Yeah. And we hear it all the time. We
Yeah.
hear so many stories like you, and I even hear stories like that now. Obviously, like those of us that went through treatment, not currently, like we went through our heart of our treatment previously, but for people even now, I'll hear them and they're like, "Oh yeah, you're like my fifth therapist. My kid's kind of burnt out, doesn't really think treatment's going to work for them." And when we talk about what they've done, none of it is this kind of treatment. And I'm like, how did you go through that many therapists who just didn't know how to treat OCD, or at least to refer out?
It's a shame. It's a real disservice to their patients, their clients. So yeah, I that's sad to hear that actually still happens.
Yeah.
Every day. That's why we have this webinar, one of the reasons, right? And that's really, seriously though, that's why Chris and I do this work, is that we want individuals to know two things. Number one, how can you understand what sort of treatment you need? And number two, how can you advocate for that, right? And that really, when you're seeing a clinician, you should kind of be interviewing them. You should make sure they're the right fit for you. You have a good relationship with them, that they have the background and expertise so that they can take you to new levels, and that you can feel exactly how you felt, Leslie, saying that you felt the way you did, of man, I couldn't believe it. My clinician for the first day, rode with me on the bus, went to work. We started knocking, and it is sometimes when you're with the right clinician, you're like, wait, what? This is what therapy can look like? It can be hands-on and interactive, and you're going to help me address my biggest fears. And you should, when you do that, start to feel like I am actually starting to feel like I'm at a place where, I hate to say this isn't that hard, but this is challenging but feasible. Right?
Yeah.
It's hard, but it shouldn't feel torturous. It shouldn't feel impossible. You should feel empowered and supported and proud of yourself. The best thing, you guys, my daughter's in Montessori school. And one of the things that they taught us is instead of saying, I'm so proud of you to Olivia all the time, or Grace, we say to them, are you proud of yourself? And just watching our child, 3 years old, be like, I am proud of myself, Mom. I did it, right? And that's how you should feel when you do ERP. You should feel like, I'm so proud of myself. This was so hard, but I did it, and I can keep doing hard things. And then the next exposure and the next thing that you're working on your hierarchy, or however you're scheduling and setting your exposures to do, feels challenging but feasible. And so I love that. I would love to hear a little bit, Leslie, about, so it sounds like you started getting into treatment, you're really excited, you're seeing the difference, and you're doing the work. What for you are some of the biggest lessons you learned during your ERP journey? And maybe in particular, some things you wish you would have learned earlier?
Some things oh my God. Some things I wish I would have learned earlier. Don't listen to the OCD. It's not right. That would have been great. I don't know. Some things that I learned was that to just, embrace the uncertainty, that the anxiety isn't going to kill me, that it doesn't last forever. That is something I repeat in my head a lot, that it doesn't last forever. The anxiety cannot last forever. It won't. It will go away at some point. It'll be terrible, but it'll go away. And also to take things little by little. OCD is huge, right? So you just want to fight. That therapist, she said something to me that meant so much to me that I have it tattooed on my back. It's fight the small battles. And I was just like, I don't know why that resonated so much with me, but I was like, yeah, just because you can't even think of this is your way of life. Again, I was diagnosed when I was 8. I didn't know life without OCD. That was my life. I didn't have a life without it. So I didn't think it was possible, but it was just take things little by little and you'll fight it and you'll win. Will it suck? God, yes. but are you going to die? No, I hope not. You know, like, I mean, but yeah, but it can be done. It is not the way you have to live. It is the way that you think you have to live, but I am telling you that you don't. And, you know, it's something that's very difficult to have somebody who's suffering with OCD believe. I didn't believe it back then, but I learned through doing ERP, like, wow, that was really easy. Like, yeah, I did just like get out of bed. I didn't have to do a set of rituals just to get my foot out of the bed. Like, and look, I'm still fine. I'm still fine. I'm still here. I still have all my appendages. I didn't throw up. I'm fine. And have I thrown up since I've been in remission? Yes, I have. Was I okay? Yeah, I was fine. Did I like it? No, I did not. But I did it and I was fine.
I like what you said too. Well, I like what both of you said. Leslie, I think battling the small battles, because our brains are so black or white. So it's like either I tackle everything tomorrow or not. And I like what you said, Liz, about the accomplishment. I mean, you know, one thing that happens with OCD is we're so desperate for other people to step in, our parents, our loved ones, or avoidance if we don't have someone around to do something for us. And we forget how good it feels to accomplish something. How do you think us as advocates could better explain? I'm always trying to figure out messaging. How do you think we could better explain as advocates to people that are scared? I don't even think sometimes anymore they're scared of the treatment. I think the word's gotten out that treatment can be values-based and done collaboratively and inspirationally. But I think people are just scared to do anything to fight back. And I think all of us are living proof that it's like, we are so glad we put in the work. We would never go back to day one. We are so happy to be where we're at. How do we express to those that are on the fence or watching this or scared to move forward that it's incredible, it's tough, it's challenging, and it's incredible, and the outcome is amazing?
Yeah, I think it's really difficult, again, to tell somebody because OCD is so strong, but you're stronger. You know, I mean, it's just, it's so possible to not live your life like that. And to get to the other side, it's so much better. We only get this one life here, you know, we don't know what's going to happen. And why waste your time stuck in the bathroom? You know, like, come on out, you'll be fine. Are you going to be anxious? Yeah, you're going to be anxious, but you'll be fine. And it's just, you know, you can be scared because it's scary. And us three, we know how scary it is. It's very scary. But you're going to get through it. And you know what? Being scared isn't going to last forever. You will not be scared forever, I promise. And to just do things little by little, cut out the hierarchy is so important. Cut out the smallest, least anxiety raising ritual that you have first. Work on that for a little while. And then move up when you feel better, when you get some confidence.
Like that.
Totally. Couldn't agree more. Okay. So I love this like continued message that ERP treatment doesn't have to be torture. It doesn't have to be scary. And instead it should feel freeing, exciting, less challenging than you expected. It should teach you can do hard things, and it should take you to a new place. I'm curious, Leslie, for you, now that you are doing, you know, advocacy and really starting to speak out more, tell us a little bit about that journey for you. What drew you into advocacy and wanting to really use your story for positive and for good? So
you guys know that it's so nice to be able to talk to you guys because you know exactly what it's like. So as you guys know, OCD is a very embarrassing, shameful, manipulating disorder. You don't want to tell anybody about it. And I mean, so I was diagnosed back in the 80s. So, you know, it was a little different, people's view on mental health and everything. You know, you think of somebody with a disorder as, you know, with popsicles stuck in their hair and picking at their face and wearing their clothes backwards or whatever. But Liz had the greatest campaign when she was just like, this is what OCD looks like. This is what mental illness looks like. This beautiful blonde-haired lady who you would never think had anything wrong with her. But that's what that looked like, right? So I know I'm flattering you. But becoming an advocate was really, really important for me. Like I was saying to Chris before, because it was my only way to get like my fix of helping people at the time when I was doing my own corporate job. I was an advocate, and I was an advocate on the DL. Like, I didn't want to tell anybody I worked with. I wasn't promoting anything about the IOCDF. I was too embarrassed. I didn't want anybody to know. I don't remember exactly when it was, but at one point I was just like, what is the point of me being an advocate and working with this foundation if I can't help them by getting the word out? I have to stop being so embarrassed by it, because it's not, yes, it is embarrassing, but I'm not the only one. So I just made a decision to be like, hey guys, I advocate with this foundation. If I felt comfortable enough, then I would say I had OCD too, or I have OCD also. Or otherwise I would just say I volunteer with them. But like, as I got further along in my advocacy, I was just like, this isn't enough. I need to really open up. I need to really share with people. Like, I have a medic-phobic OCD. Like, this is what it is. This is what I used to have to do. And I'm not so embarrassed by it as much as I think it's hilarious now. Like, I am a firm believer in, and I even do this with my schizophrenic patients as well that I work with now. I believe that humor is like one of the best medicines possible. If we can't laugh at ourselves, then we're going to crawl in a ball and cry. So, I just thought that it was really important as an advocate, or else I shouldn't be an advocate. If I don't want to talk about my own experience, then what am I doing here? It's not going to do anybody any good. What if there is one person in East Bumble, whatever, Nebraska, who has the same kind of OCD as me, and they happen to see me on this live stream? Like, that'd be pretty cool, because now they're like, wait, there is somebody else like me out there. So when you're an advocate, you have no choice. This is what you're supposed to do. This is your job.
Yeah, no, I love what you're saying, is because obviously there's I always tell people, I always was waiting for that one person. Obviously I would hear stories from my mom in the past. I would ask her, who was it that kind of got the country to understand cancer, or who got the country to understand different ailments like schizophrenia or dissociative identity disorder? How did that work? And a lot of times there was tales of my mom would tell me about oh, the celebrity came out with it, or the celebrity did this. Yeah. And then I was always kind of waiting for that to happen for our community. And I don't know why it hasn't. I'm not saying that the people that are public facing are not doing great work. Sometimes we'll see, Turtles All the Way Down just came out, or Howie Mandel has done some stuff, or obviously these other people. But there still hasn't been this aha moment from the country. And I've always thought it's really just going to be us. I think it's going to be all the different advocates that are open enough to share their story and really talk about it on any platform until enough people hear about it and say, wait, I have a cousin, or I saw this live stream, or I went to this conference, and this is what OCD really is, versus the kind of quirks that we see in the media. So all the people doing the hard work, I think that universal message is going to one day kind of break through, and people will start to recognize just how debilitating it is.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
it was actually a while ago we had that contest about submitting a video for your OCD or your experience with it or something. And I posted a video of it, because I had always wanted to do some sort of an OCD simulator, try and understand, somebody walks into a machine and they get to feel and see and hear and taste the way having OCD is. And I did a video for it, posted it on social media. And I got a lot of people coming out of the woodwork, hey, my friend's kid has this, or I think I have this, or, my coworker has a kid who might have an issue. And that's it. That's the job. That's the advocacy right there that pays off.
Yeah. No, people see those things. It impacts people. I mean, I saw Liz speak, and that really turned me into wanting to get better. You saw Liz in her, national campaign. I mean, people see someone that they can resonate with. A lot of times when parents come to me and they're like, my loved one just won't get better or be willing to do treatment, one of the first things I do is I ask, does your loved one like YouTube videos? Do they like live streams? Do they like podcasts? Do they like articles? Do they like science? And whatever they tell me, I'm like, all right, well, how old is your child? Oh, 25-year-old male. I have this advocate that's done this video for the IOCDF. Have your son watch it. And there's so many times where parents will reach back out to me 4, 5, 6 months later, like, oh my God, thank you for sending that video. He watched it. He felt motivated. And now he's willing to see a therapist. Like, just sometimes seeing a person that you resonate with going through this is the catalyst for people to get better.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed.
Well, I wanted to see, we got questions. So Leslie, you could answer them feeling comfortable as a lived experience, as a clinician. Liz and I will definitely help you out as well. So the first question came from Flex on YouTube, and it said, how much like false attraction, arousal, etc. feels real in my case? It feels so real. So what I wanted to kind of like summarize this question, it was at 6:51 a.m. your time, Amanda. Why OCD feels so real? How do we as people not buy into those feelings? Because I think that's what happens. It's like in this case for him or for them, there's these false arousals and attraction. It's kind of making him think something's going on. How do we, when we're getting better, not buy into those false sensations? Because OCD is not always about thoughts. It can be feelings, sensations, etc.
Liz, I'm going to let you take this.
Happy to do that. So how do I say this? Anxiety and physiological responses are real. So I want to just first of all say that like OCD does make us it does activate us, right? We do feel this anxiety. We have these intrusive thoughts, this guilt, shame, all this stuff that accompanies that. And so that makes us feel even more sure or question even more if these thoughts might be true. And it kind of puts us in this place where we start to try to attach meaning to our intrusive thoughts. What I will say though is that typically I will do something like, okay, so if you didn't have OCD, what would you say? How do you feel? And most patients with OCD can name that, and then they'll say, but I'm not totally sure, or maybe that's not the case, or maybe I'm just saying that to you and I'm lying about it, right? And I'm like, okay, we're going to go for the first part, not the but and all the doubt that follows, because the doubt and everything that follows is where anxiety and OCD lives, right? That's where that's attached. And so our goal is to get you back to living the life you want to live despite intrusive thoughts or feelings that might be there. And if we do that, those intrusive thoughts and feelings will start to fade away. I want to be really clear that I think a lot of people think that ERP means we have to just accept feeling uncomfortable forever or feeling distressed forever. When what I want to what I want to push and promote, so to say, is that that's not the case, right? Actually, when you do OCD treatment, you should get clarity, right? When I had and have sexual intrusive thoughts, if I engage in ERP right away, I'm able to have clarity around those thoughts. I know that those were OCD. That's not real. That's not me. And I move on. But when I try to solve them and or get stuck in OCD rituals around them, I become more unsure of, well, maybe that is me. Maybe I am that type of person, and I get more stuck in it. And so OCD can absolutely cause us to question everything that's important to us, right? And who we're attracted to, our faith, who we love, right? All these things that are big, important things in our life, OCD can latch on to. At the same time, we also don't want to label everything as OCD, right? For example, with real event OCD, we'll kind of talk about that for a second. Sometimes there really is an event that happened that we feel guilty about, or that we wish didn't happen, or that we learned something from it, right? That's what I always want to say is, did we learn from it? And that can be true. And OCD can now latch onto that, right? And now OCD can distort the event, can distort what we're thinking, and can make us ruminate and worry about that event the whole time. And both things can be true. So when it comes to false attraction, arousal, right? If this is OCD, it can absolutely feel real. And it's going to keep feeling real if we're trying to solve it and understand it versus if we're applying an ERP model to it.
Well said.
Mm-hmm.
Leslie, to toss to you, I mean, with people that deal with emetophobia in the field of throwing up, that comes with sensations as well. How did you get to a point that you didn't get faked out by every sensation, right? Like you went on a roller coaster, your stomach didn't feel good. You ate a certain food, your stomach didn't feel good. Just like Liz was saying, how did you get to a point where you stopped buying everything OCD was selling and get that clarity that you could be solid like you are today?
I mean, I would just say to myself, first of all, I don't like going on roller coasters for that reason. I don't really like roller coasters anyway, but I think that I would recognize it because I'd be like, I feel fine. I feel physically fine. I'm able to kind of separate. This is going to be an odd term. I'm able to separate like the mental nausea from like the physical nausea and be like, this is OCD. There is nothing wrong with me. And even if there is something wrong with me, I will deal with it. It'll be fine. It'll suck, but it'll be fine. So I'm able, after many years of therapy, I have these tools that I carry with me forever. That I know, this is not, I can tell, I've gotten able to tell the difference between OCD and me.
Well said.
Yeah.
Which is huge. Yeah. Chris, I'm going to throw a couple at you.
Okay.
Sorry. And I love you guys, the chat. Like, I love how so many of you are talking to each other and giving feedback and asking questions. And so anyway, just sharing that. But we're going to go to Rodrigo at 12:18, your time, Amanda. I have OCD and it manifests the most when it comes to studying. I mentally compulse a lot and just can't fully concentrate on my studies. Am I understanding the content well enough? Am I forgetting a deadline? What are some suggestions to help me focus on my studies and ruminate less?
Good question. So what I think about is OCD always instills doubt in us. And what we do as people is we make the mistake of trying to get that feeling, right? That click is what I tell my clients. So in your case, Rodrigo, it's like you're studying and you want to concentrate. And what ends up happening is if you're doing those mental compulsions that you're talking about, it's really difficult to focus on your studies and compulse. So then you're doing the mental compulsions and then you can't concentrate. So then you're freaking out. You can't concentrate. So you mentally compulse. And now you have this like smush of a situation. Like you're just at a point where it's like it becomes cyclical. It's like trying to study. I got to do my compulsions. I'm doing my compulsions. I can't focus. I got to do my compulsions to focus, but now I can't focus. Like it just isn't a winning strategy. I always tell my clients, like, if doing compulsions made you a better student, why aren't the schools pushing it? Why aren't you doing your projects on teaching client or your fellow peers to have OCD and to do compulsions so they could be great studiers as well? We know that it's not helpful. So one of the things that you're going to want to do is really identify with your clinician, okay, when I'm studying, what's kind of happening before, during, and after that is giving into OCD. And now you're trying to both study and manage a mental health condition, which is not going to happen. And with your clinician, as you restrict on those mental compulsions, you can delay, reduce, and then eventually eliminate. The problem that happens is you're not going to feel that click right away. You're going to be reading a normal way, right? Like the way you studied prior to having the compulsions. And you're going to say to your therapist, but it doesn't feel like I'm understanding things. That's okay. You don't get the feeling right away. Kind of like what we've been talking about is like at first when you're doing the work, it's a lot of just like doubt, discomfort, non-clarity, but as you push through and do the work, you will get clear. So I would work first and foremost on working on reducing those mental compulsions. Second, being prepared that you don't feel you understand the content well enough, but instead of desperately doing compulsions again, really just kind of keep going with it. As for like forgetting deadlines, once again, wait for something to happen to you. If there's a pattern of missing deadlines, then working with someone on creating a good strategy, maybe a counselor at school. But if you're not missing deadlines and you're worried about missing deadlines, that's where the OCD comes in and taking a risk of not doing anything extra, just kind of doing your normal behavior and see what happens.
Love that. And you guys, you'll have the sweetest comments. I'm like just going through them all, but so many people are talking about how advocacy just means so much to them and how useful it's been. And so I want to put Amy's comment up of I've entered advocacy because I have a passion and drive for it, but was surprised to learn how it benefits my own active values-based ERP lifestyle as well. And so I want to hop to that, Leslie, and hear a little bit from you. But one thing that did really also surprise me was how much advocacy helped me and how it kind of, y'all hear a lot of my slogans that I use all the time. So sorry they're on repeat, but like how it really turned my pain into a purpose. And it allowed me to have a different perspective of what I went through because it was like, I can actually help people. So yes, OCD sucks and I can use my struggle for something good. And for me, that really helped shift perspective for me, which was really important. And it helped me get out of that kind of, I hate to say it, but like victim mentality and into an action mentality, but that was really useful for me in my recovery. So I'd love to hear a little bit about what that experience has been like for you and if you have found similarities in that.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it can be triggering. Being around others with OCD, it can get triggering sometimes, but otherwise it's just, I guess, like the community aspect of it, and being able to just help somebody to know that they don't have to live the way they do, and to see that there are successful people that also still have the disorder. I do want people to understand that I still have OCD. I will always have OCD forever. There is no cure for it. I still have tiny compulsions that I still do, but I move right through them now. But, so I'm not cured. I always like to say that I'm at like 97% remission. So I think being an advocate has helped me be completely and utterly honest and open about my journey with OCD, in the hopes that it helps anybody, or or informs a clinician, or helps a researcher or a doctor writing a paper or something, or somebody doing a documentary on OCD, like something like that. It's just it's helped me be completely open, honest, upfront, with a little bit of humor in it. Yeah.
I like it. It's like a mixture. You're like cooking and you're like throwing a little bit of humor.
Yeah, a little that, a little this. Yeah.
I always think humor is great. I always think about like Dr. Jenicky always has great humor. John Hirschfield, Jonathan Grayson. Like I've always, Alec Pollard, like I've always felt like a little bit of humor helped. And I remember going to a talk once where they were talking about the brain, and it's really hard to be in fear if you're in humor. And so, I wish I would have known that in treatment, because I was so doom and gloom at home. I wish I would have thrown in some jokes while doing some stuff. But I think that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. And those guys are all hilarious. You have to laugh. It's so important to laugh at yourself and the disorder itself, because it's so ridiculous.
Yeah. It really is. No, that's the thing. It so is. But in the moment, it feels so real, but it is so ridiculous. Yeah. So many great comments. Yes, this is live, Gail. We have our webinars, oh goodness, Chris, 1st, 3rd, and 4th, but every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Time, 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. It's every single Wednesday we have either an Ask the Expert or Research Roundtable. The Research Roundtable is always the second Thursday of every month.
Second Wednesday.
Sorry. See what happens? Second Wednesday of every month. Here I am. But we love y'all joining. Chris, somebody asked at 11:45, I should, if they can, how they would get some of those resources. So somebody had asked about some of the resources you talked about, of like how you would know which advocate to point someone to, which person somebody should be speaking with. And then also someone else said that they specifically would like to have some resources for how to entice someone into treatment, that they're trying to help their older sibling and they see it closing in on her. So would love if you can kind of share how somebody would search and find appropriate resources.
Yeah, what I always like to do is ask somebody, like your loved one, what kind of resources are they open to? So if somebody is really into podcasts in general, I would point them to a podcast. So we know that Kim Quinlan has Your Anxiety Toolkit podcast, which is absolutely incredible. We have Stuart Ralph with OCD Stories, Kevin Boss out here in California his podcast isn't only in California, he's just out here in California, but he has the Fearcast podcast. And then there's some other great ones. So I would say those are kind of some of the top podcasts. I would say if they're much more into YouTube videos, go to the IOCDF. If they like informational or community live streams under IOCDF YouTube, go to live, and our live streams are there. If they like general videos, go to just the general videos the IOCDF has up. Ethan Smith directed a documentary that's one of the most watched videos on the YouTube on IOCDF's YouTube, but it's a bunch of different people who have gotten better, so you can go there. The IOCDF has an amazing newsletter that you can get both in person or virtual, and so if they're much more of a reader, they like to hear stories, they like to kind of read things on their own time. Also, if you go on the IOCDF's website, they have a list of books. And there's a couple people, like I know Jeff Bell has written a book about his personal experience that a lot of people like. He actually has 2 books. And there's other people who like those type of books of like real stories. And then lastly, if people are more into entertainment, Turtles All the Way Down just came out by John Green on HBO, but there's also a book. So there's also a couple movies that have come out. I know Ethan helped direct one called Waiting. There's one called Exposure, I think one called Puros. So there's a lot of different mediums, but I would say just first find, and then if you want to email us, just email info@iocdf.org and maybe just ask specific resources, whether it's a podcast, whatever. And then Liz, myself, the staff can kind of compile some stuff and send it to you. I will say lastly, for the siblings, I know that Chris Bear has done a lot of stuff on Unstuck on his platform to do stuff for siblings. So there's recordings of siblings. They've done live streams for siblings. So what I've found is a lot of siblings like that stuff to learn how to best approach their sibling about OCD.
Yeah. And the thing I always say is that, you don't want to force someone into treatment. You really want it to be their own choice, because treatment is hard, right? It is hard work, and it requires somebody being committed versus I'm doing this because someone's making me. And so the big thing I always say is just start with education, right? Because the more somebody can have education and resources and support to know, oh, this is what OCD treatment can look like, and I can actually get better, and there is help. And so sometimes that hope and that understanding of what help would look like is so critical first. And so I love to say, start with education, start with resources. And then once somebody gets to a place where they're starting to ask you questions, like they're starting to say things like, well, what do you think? Or what do you think about this? Or y'all kind of watch a couple of these live streams or events together, and you've broken that barrier around that stigma and helped them see that you're here to support them and that you're doing this research. Typically when people start to ask questions, I feel like that's when it's at the best place to be able to start coming in and saying, okay, let's start really doing treatment now.
Yeah, I mean, especially if they're asking questions, then that means that they're ready to learn more and really start attacking.
Exactly, 100%. So we have 3 minutes left, and let's go ahead and wrap up with some messages of hope and some messages of support. I'll start by just saying, again, I love this chat, and I love how much you guys are engaging with each other and building this community. And yes, there are so many incredible resources. So start, number one, with IOCDF.org. 100% consider coming to the conference this year that is in Orlando in July. It's an incredible place and opportunity to connect with other individuals with OCD, to learn from other clinicians. Highly recommend and encourage that. And of course, start to build your own community. For many people, your support system might be your immediate family. For many people, you need to build your own support system and your own community who can help guide you to effective treatment. Remember, help and hope are always available, even though at times it feels like they're not. This community, these testaments today are evidence that for a long time, for many people like Leslie, you can be in the wrong treatment, getting the wrong help, and feeling more stuck. But with the right treatment and resources, pretty quickly, you should start to see your life change. Chris, I'll throw it to you, and then Leslie will let you have the final words.
Yeah, for my final words, Craig Konitsky at 9:54 my time on the West Coast on Twitter or X. I love that people could start asking questions on that. Just basically said that their teenage son has a high IQ, autism and OCD, how to get the school to understand OCD. I just want to throw quickly for my final thought, a really great resource. We have Anxiety in the Classroom. Although it says anxiety, it's really also OCD and anxiety based in the classroom because it's really a supportive system for us to educate schools. So Craig, if you have a therapist for your teenage son, there's resources there that the therapist can provide for the school. However, if you don't have a therapist for your son, then what I would definitely say is you looking on that website and looking at different resources you could pass on to their counselor to get them to understand so that they could work with your son to eventually get to a point. Obviously, you don't need those supports as they get better, but at least for right now. So please check out that amazing resource. Like I said, the IOCF has so many great things for situations you're in. And Leslie, you get the final word. You get to take us out.
So much pressure. I don't know a good joke. I would start off by saying it's super cliche, but this probably should be my next tattoo. But it's just so apropos to OCD. To get to the other side of the fire, you've got to go through it. ERP, CBT, whatever your treatment choice is, medication, not medication, it is going to be a difficult fight. But you will get to the other side, and it's so awesome on the other side. It's just so awesome on the other side. And another thing that I used to think of, I used to look at other people that were normal and be like, how do they walk around without a security blanket? Because my OCD was my security blanket. It was keeping me safe. And I'm here to tell you that that is not true. OCD is not your security blanket. It is not your friend. It is not protecting you. It is taking your life from you, your quality of life. It's taking away time from your friends. It's taking away time from your family. It's not helping you advancing your job. It's taking things from you. It's not protecting you. You have to know that. Please know we are extremely strong, extremely smart people with OCD. Sure, everybody else is okay, but the stuff that we've been through and we're still here, we still function, that's amazing. You are stronger than this stupid little pain in the ass. Trust me.
Well said. I love that. You are strong. That'd be a large tattoo, everything you just said. So you'll have to like.
I know. I don't have a lot of room, so I don't know.
I don't know if Liz has a tattoo. If not, I don't have any either. So we'll live vicariously through you.
Are you signing us up, Chris? I'm confused. What's happening? Well, I love it so much. I love how inspiring that is. And you guys are all so incredible, so strong. And just, hearing every person's story and watching the adversity that people have is just, it's incredible. So we love it. We live for it. Thank you guys. Thanks for joining. Leslie, thank you for being here. You are incredible. We're so lucky to have you and just are so grateful for everything you're doing for OCD and OCD advocacy.
I am very lucky to have you guys.
We'll see you in July.
Thanks, y'all.
Yes, totally. Yes. I'll see you in Florida. It'll be really nice and cool.
Nice and warm. See y'all there.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Take care. See everybody at the Orlando conference, end of July.